For me, being a firefighter and being a Christian run hand in hand in a lot of ways because we are sacrificing and putting others before ourselves. And so a lot of those Christian morals is also exactly the whole bloodline and base of the fire service.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the First Things First, a show where we talk about setting our priorities in the right order to help us fall in love with the job again. Today, I am stoked to have my brother and my friend, Pat Long. Pat, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to get into it and just have a great conversation with you, man. Thank you.
Yep, definitely. I love having you on, and we got a chance to talk a little bit before we started recording. We spent a couple hours on the phone just a couple weeks ago, and it's been good connecting with you and finally being able to sit down with you and talk about all the stuff that's going on in your life. So why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to everybody and tell us what's going on with you?
Thank you, Helton. Yeah, man. My name's Pat Long. I am 33. I've been a firefighter for a little over 10 years now. I am also a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for about 5.5 years. Greatest job in the world. Everybody knows it. I am most importantly a Christian, and I am a husband to a smoking hot wife and a dad to a 7-year-old daughter who is a walking princess and a 2-year-old son who eats dirt and licks windows, and he's a future firefighter all the way through. So I couldn't be happier. And I work for a fire department in Kings Bay. It's a naval submarine base in Camden County, Georgia. It's amazing, really wild experience there, and a pretty different mission than most fire services. And I love it. Yeah, and I'm here to give you guys a little bit of a scoop on what my last year has been like and how God is working in me and through me to help others not have to go through the same thing. So thank you, Helton, again for having me on. Appreciate it.
Definitely, brother. I love having you on. So were you born and raised in Georgia? What was childhood like? What were mom and dad like?
I was actually born in Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. Germantown, Maryland, actually. But I was born there, lived there for 3 years, and then moved to Georgia. So I don't really have much memory of Maryland at all. Matter of fact, unfortunately, I've never even been back. I want to go back. I want to, kind of go and tour Washington, D.C. I think that'd be so fun. I know that that's something that you're very familiar with. So I'd love to get up there and maybe we can hang out and go run around all those places. But yeah, grew up in McDonough, Georgia. Went to a Christian school the entire way through. I was very blessed. My parents, though they maybe didn't make what we would consider a lot of money, their priorities were my brother and I going to a Christian school, and that means so much to me. It's something I definitely took for granted at the time. And but now at my ripe old age of wisdom, I'm realizing how amazing that was, to have that background and to have that established in my knowledge, whether it was established in my heart at that time. I've been able to fall back on that knowledge, and now it makes so much more sense that I am a man of faith. Went there, played a whole bunch of sports. Baseball was definitely my primary. Baseball was my first love, as most baseball players probably would say. And was very lucky and blessed to work hard enough to go and play college baseball. I played 2 years at Jacksonville University, and then I transferred to Georgia Gwinnett College. At that time, unknown school, had no baseball program. They're like, hey, we're literally building a field, but come on. I knew the coach really well. I knew a bunch of the guys that he had got on. I was like, this is going to be a good team. And now they are a absolute powerhouse in the NAIA and pretty much going to the College World Series every year. It's amazing. In that time, I met my smoking hot wife. Like I said, a couple friends of mine were also really good friends of her. Kind of a classic story of like, you need to meet my friend Cassie. And they're like, I know as soon as y'all meet, y'all are gonna be in love, and they were not wrong. I met her and pretty much professed my love to her. like day one, and we she's not been able to get rid of me now for 9 years, crazy enough, almost 10. So pretty amazing. And I yeah, we've been able to have two great kiddos. I got on with the fire service out there after I graduated up in Gwinnett County, and was fortunate enough to get hired on with Glenn County. Was there for about 5.5 years, and then have been at the base for 3 years. And kind of wild when you say it all, like it's like the fastest, slowest, longest, as you know. It's like the weirdest timeline being in the fire service, because your weeks really do blow by, and some of the days are the longest days of your entire life, and you wouldn't really have it any other way. But that's yeah, in a very, very condensed matter, that is how we kind of met and got everything going. And it was a perfect timing. I will tell you a little bit about my faith journey. Was that like I said, I went to a Christian school, knew it. I won't say that and this hurts me to say, never denied that God was there. Just truthfully, I looked at what my priorities were, and I said, I don't have time for God. And that hurts to say that now that I know how amazing this relationship is. But I remember going to JU, and that was the first time I was away from home, family, a lot of my friends. College baseball is a full-time job. It is not like where you're just going out and playing on the weekends. Like you are, it's a full-time, and it was stressful. It was and I remember being so homesick, and a friend of mine was like, "Hey man, come to church with me. Like let's just go and hang out at church." And I told him no about 3 weeks in a row, and finally he was stubborn and persistent, which is exactly how we're supposed to be, right? We're supposed to just continue planting seeds, planting seeds, planting seeds. And I finally went, and I heard it was pretty much like the Lord was just smacking me in the face. That, how when you go to church, it seems like the pastor is just talking straight to you, Helton, you are doing this. You need to listen to this. Write this down. That's exactly what he's doing to me. And so some things kind of settled in. I got it. I started cracking open my Bible and really diving in and going back to a lot of the education on the Bible that I had, and looked at it from a whole new lens. And it wasn't 3 weeks later I accepted the Lord as my personal Lord and Savior, and knew that my life was going to be forever changed. And in that exact moment, I also felt like priority shifted. It didn't mean that I didn't care about ball or anything like that, but I just remember being like, first and foremost, I need to make sure God is good with whatever decision I'm doing, instead of what's best for Pat Long. Yeah, I mean, going through a couple years of that, I will tell you, it changed the way that I viewed relationships with, women, girlfriend, you name it. And I would say that that was the perfect timing, is whenever I met Cassie, I had really, 3 years later, um, gotten to the point where I was ready to dive into a relationship. I had kind of done enough self check and self analysis, and made sure that I was the next person that I got into a relationship with was going to be a person that made me a better Christian first, then man, and then met all the other bullet points that society tells us we're supposed to have in our head. And so, yeah, it's amazing how God works like that. And I love going back sometimes and looking at that chain of events and realizing the purpose that God has and the mission that God has is so much different than anything we could draw up, but it really does make a lot of sense. And I'll be able to get into that more and more as I kind of give my story a little bit more, especially what it's kind of gone down this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really love what you said too when you're talking about that right timing in your life when you and your wife met, that you're ready to not just be a better man, but a better Christian, a better husband, and eventually a father. So where was Cassie on her journey when you guys met, and were you guys all moving closer to God together, and how did you guys
Very much
take
so.
that step?
It's super funny that you asked that, because, yeah, I mean, I would say almost the exact same, different story. Cassie grew up very involved in the church. Her parents are absolute rock stars as far as, Christian folks, and really, led those kiddos, with Cassie and her sister the right way. And from a very early age, Cassie's had a really great relationship with the Lord. But I don't think she would tell you that she was, during some of the college times, living as close to that. And I get it. We can make excuses. College is a confusing time for a lot of people. And that's why I tell a lot of the younger folks that I get to mentor to that, like, man, really try and get a mission plan of how you're going to live your life going before you step foot on that campus. Don't let the campus or the, environment dictate who you are as a Christian. You get to dictate your environment. But yeah, Cassie was in the same boat. She had just gotten out of a relationship that was I would say she would say what the was her trying to quote unquote fix a guy that was maybe a tad bit broken and was not pursuing the Lord. Actually, her faith was a big reason that that was called off. And she took about 3, 4 months of her really just trying to get back in line and focused. And it's funny, she actually showed me and told me that she had been praying for a person that met my characteristics to come into her life at that time. And that's kind of exactly what God did. And I'm no Prince Charming, but I'm glad I hit those characteristics. So yeah, it was really cool. And I would say that you know, this goes without saying, but sometimes marriage gets taken for granted on a lot of things. It's like we do it because that's like what we almost feel like society's supposed to do. But that decision of who that main person in your corner is, and you and theirs could not be more important for the trajectory of your life. Legitimately, it is right below deciding to walk in faith with Jesus Christ is who you surround yourself with, because you know this as a father as well, like that person is raising your kids. That person is, you know, there are many Sundays when you and I are on shift, and I can fully trust that whether I'm there or not, my wife is taking my kids and they're going to church, and they're right now they're at Bible study, which is amazing. They do a Bible study every Thursday, and they are there, and that is so cool. I think that's my definition of hot has changed in a lot of ways, and I think that's smoking hot is that my wife is that way with our kids. And I will also go into it. She's carried the family on a lot of years when my faith fluctuated, and she was so strong and steady with that, and such a great prayer warrior through all of that. And I mean, it gets me kind of emotional, but I really can't thank God enough for that kind of strength and person in my life pushing us through. And I think that's why she handled this year so well, is that she is just tougher than I could ever be. She's tougher than five of me. So, and I'm sure you would say the same thing for your wife. So we definitely married up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that's
I love I love what you said that, your what attracts you to your wife is very different now. I was just hearing a sermon last night that the pastor, he was talking specifically about marriage, and he says it's okay if our relationship begins with physical attraction. After all, that's how
right.
God designed us, right?
Yeah.
And he was preaching on the Song of Solomon's, which is obviously a super awesome book for married people. But then he talks how that physical attraction then has to move onto other things that are going to bring
Hmm.
us closer together. So exactly what you said, and I agree with you 100%. And the pastor also mentioned Proverbs, right? That he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and if we find a wise woman, like you're saying, the same thing with Cassie and my wife Teresa, man, she is the wisest woman in the world, and she leads our home, and she leads our, cares for our children. She prays for me and supports me in a way that I could have never ever asked or imagined. Just it is just, she is the helper that God designed, like he says in Genesis. And so I love what you said about that, and the things that are, that are bringing your family together, and as you guys are raising your children, and it's a beautiful picture of what a Christian family should be. And I really love one thing that you just mentioned about being mission minded before you go into, you're specifically talking to about college, but I think it goes along other things too, right? It goes into marriage, like you were just talking about, being mission minded about marriage. But I want to bring this mission minded into the fire service, because sometimes we just join the fire service because, hey man, it's a cool job, it's the best job in the world. So can you talk a little bit about being mission minded in the fire service, and specifically your story? How was it for you being mission minded in the fire service?
Yeah, that's a great question. Exactly what you just said is exactly how I felt. I got done with with college, graduated with a business in management and a minor in marketing. Sounds really cool, but you don't get out of college and just start managing a Fortune 500 company. So you still got to work your way up and learn the gig. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go hit the corporate ladder and really do this thing, and just climb. And no pun intended, right? But anyways, I did logistics sales with trucking for about 3 months, and I remember being like, this is not it. Like, this is not satisfying me. I had a couple buddies that went straight into fire service, and they're like, Pat, this is right up your alley. Like, that we work out, we eat great, we go to cool calls. Like, this is awesome, And it was that simple. But I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory. My dad is from Poughkeepsie, New York. And he was a volunteer firefighter up there for about 4 years, and knew the minute I told him, I was like, hey, I'm really thinking and praying about the fire service. My dad was like, oh gosh, we just put you through all that college and my son's going to be a firefighter. And he's like, the worst thing is I know you're going to love it. Like, it's so cool. And so, and he was right. But as far as mission goes, yeah, I mean, not to bash any other job out there, right? Because that is not what I'm doing. But for me, being a firefighter and being a Christian run hand in hand in a lot of ways, because we are sacrificing and putting others before ourselves. And so a lot of those Christian morals that we get to read right here in this beautiful big book is also exactly the whole bloodline and base of the fire service. And now, I will tell you, the fire service can be one of the holiest places and unholiest places. I'll say this: a fire station, one of the holiest or unholiest places, depending on what it's built up of. And I have got to see both, and I'm sure you have as well. One thing I will tell you about what's going on at my current station and current department is truly unbelievable to me. It felt like for a long time there always had to be a separation of religion and politics. We don't talk about that in the firehouse, but everything else is fair game. And now we're having a Bible study on shift. We're having major conversations about Christ, and we're on Sunday, the whole group is going in and they're watching church, online, and it's just so nuts to me. And we live in a really crazy and evil world, and yet in a place for that for so long has had those lines separated by the biggest wall you could ever have. Now you're seeing God just completely overtake. I mean, I think about your podcast and so many others now that are popping up of firefighters professing their faith. This wouldn't have happened 10 years ago whenever I first started. I'm sure you've been in the game longer than me, but this is really odd, and it's odd in such a great way. But I'm noticing it, and I mean, shoot, I'm in the Bible Belt. Like, we're all, like down here in the South. That's a major part of life. You're a Christian because you just went to church growing up on Sunday, and that's what you did, and you watched the Georgia Bulldogs, and you ate, chicken on Sunday, and that was it. Like, that's just you rock and roll. And it's been so cool seeing those walls break down in a world that you're like, Lord, where are you? I feel like we're just getting farther and farther away. Yet in the fire service, it feels like it's just the faith is exploding. And I'm hoping that that can carry on throughout the entire fire service and throughout, the world really is just, hey, these guys, they're battle hardened, but they are dropping whatever shell that they need to have, and they're professing their faith and trusting God. And it's been amazing. It's been really, really cool. And to circle back to your question about mission, I did not go into the firehouse expecting to go and be some kind of, firehouse pastor or anything like that. Now, I will say I was never afraid to talk about it. And there were certain times that I would, say, hey, can I bless a meal? And I'd get some, hey, that's not what we do. We don't do that. If you want to pray on your time, you can, kind of thing. And that's a really crazy thing to kind of come across. But I will say it's the beauty of the fire service is that it's a bunch of really different people all coming together for the betterment of the community. And your community, it represents a bunch of different things. And so sometimes there is that clash and that cultural clash or whatever in the firehouse. But it's just been amazing seeing God working and doing that. And with my story, I've had so many testimonies of people that were, let's just say, on the fence with their faith. And after me going what through I went through and seeing how God worked, they were like, this is only God. And that to me makes me happier than anything else. I mean, that's like, that's like winning the World Series 100 times for me is how exciting that is. Like I just, hearing that and knowing that somehow God used my trial and tribulation a little bit to get others to the kingdom, I'd do it a million times over, and I really do mean that. And that's not easy for me to say, but I mean it. And the mission now is so much different than whenever I first started. But I also feel like 10 years in the game, I've got a little bit of I want to say seniority, but I am not afraid to maybe pass on my opinion. Where for the first like 5 years, I'm just like, yes, sir, whatever you need, I'll do it. I'm doing like you're just proby life or recruit life or whatever you want to call it. Like I was just the best rookie and I just wouldn't question. I was just like, let's just go. But now I feel like I have a little bit more of a voice. And the only thing I regret is that I think even day one, I could have used that voice to glorify God and there would have been no kickback. I really do believe that. And so, um, yeah, I mean, it's just been great to see, I mean, I'm sure you're seeing it in your department as well, but, yeah, it's,
Yeah, for sure, brother. It's like you said, it's been awesome to see what I call it truly is a revival in the fire service of just men and
yeah.
women just being bold and talking about Christ and talking about the Bible and having conversations, either online or around the kitchen table at the
Hmm.
firehouse. It's been a really cool thing to see just people, just being bold about their faith in around the firehouse. So let's get into your story a little bit
Yeah,
about the big thing that changed for you in the last year. So I'm going to give you a free reign for you to go
cool.
and
Yeah.
give us your story.
Yeah, so I'll give my story and I'll give a little bit of is maybe let's just say let's do a check on ourselves and make sure that our focus and that we are putting and prioritizing our health as well. I'll just start with that because I don't think I would be here had I not pursued some things. And so I'll go into more story on that later. And yeah, so um, it kind of begins last year around late June, early July. I noticed a bump right here below my left ear. Did not hurt. And it kind of felt like a little jelly ball. And what do? We shave every single day. I got up, going to the shift. I'm shaving. My wife, she works out first thing in the morning, so she gets up and I'm like, "Hey, babe, like, you see this?" And she's like, "Yeah, what is that?" And I'm like, "I don't really know. Maybe it's." And I'm like, I'm a paramedic. I know some things about medicine, but like I told her, I was like, it must be I'm probably about to get a cold or something like that. Like my lymph nodes are swollen. We'll just keep an eye on it. Didn't really think much of it because it didn't hurt. There was no pain or anything. And yeah, so we kept an eye on it. About a month later, still noticed like, hey, it's still there. And I never got that cold, actually. I feel great. And so I went to my primary and told her, hey, I'd love to get this looked at. And she was like, I think it's nothing. It's probably your lymph nodes, your lymphatic system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. We can pull some labs and just make sure everything's good. Obviously, labs were great. Um, and that kind of made me feel better. I was just kind of expecting it to probably dissipate or go away over the next, couple weeks. Well, fast forward a couple weeks, I had been training for about a year to go to a pretty rigorous program. It's a fire rescue course that the DoD puts on. Um, and it's a week long. It's kind of like the Department of Defense's smoke diver course per se. Um, and man, I mean, by all accounts, I'm not like bragging, but I'm a pretty physical guy. Definitely put myself through the ringer more than enough times, and I was trained up. I was ready. I mean, I had spent numerous hours each day and week in gear, running, lifting, crawling, just kind of punishing myself, getting ready for this course. And I go up there, and on day one, I get done. I've got a Whoop app, a Whoop band. It's pretty accurate, and it told me I burned about 7,500 calories that day. And I definitely didn't eat that much, and I definitely couldn't hydrate fast enough to keep that going. But I went into rhabdo that night, which is never ever had that happen before. For anybody that doesn't know, rhabdo is when your body has pretty much expelled all other sources of calorie burning. So it starts metabolizing proteins that it pulls from where? Your muscles. And so extremely painful. I have never been sick or in pain that much um, for that long in my life. Got hospitalized for like 12 hours. They're just pumping me full of fluids until I peed clear pretty much. Because your pee does look like sweet tea. It really does. And yeah, so I had to get home, got home, and then slept for no lie, like 4 straight days. Cassie wakes me up and she's like, hey, there's a hurricane coming. So we got to get ready for the hurricane. Get ready for the hurricane. And fortunately, very minimal damage, but it did a lot to other places. We got pretty blessed. But anyways, I say all that to say that I had some distractions, some things that kind of took away from my focus. Well, when you go into rhabdo, you have to get your labs done like every 2 weeks to make sure your kidney functions up, or else they might have to give you like a short-term dialysis, which is not something I wanted. Um, but yeah, so let's fast forward. We're in like late August, early September, actually around this time-ish. I go back in, I'm like, hey, my labs have all looked good, but this bump's there. I feel like it's gotten a little bit bigger, and I feel like if I dig into my shoulder, I can feel a couple of bumps. And I don't know if I just got her on the right day, but I feel like she was just trying to shut me up. Pretty much, she's like, look, you're like the healthiest dude that I have coming to my office, but if it makes you feel better, let's just go and get it looked at. So she calls in an ultrasound. Go and get an ultrasound. They do end up noticing that there's about 30 bumps going down my neck and into my shoulder. Now, only about two of them are palpable. So that was a little bit surprising. Then she does a chest x ray. So we look at a chest x ray. Everything looks okay. There's nothing in my lungs, anything like that. And they do an MRI as well, just from about the diaphragm up. Um, Kind of a little weird, and I would love to. Hindsight's 2020. I'd love to have asked why they did that, but they did it just there, and everything came back clear. There was nothing else really going on from that MRI. She's like, "Look, there's really only one other thing we can do. We need to get it biopsied." So they went in right below my neck right here and cut out a chain of about 5 lymph nodes. This is all like late November, so you got holidays mixed in, things like that, couple different doctor's appointments, but no real answers. We come back from New Year's, and it was the 4th of January. We go in, and my doctor was like, "Hey, you have, after reading your biopsy, you have follicular lymphoma. It is cancer, but it's really, really slow moving. Like, we've caught this extremely early. It's not even in your lungs yet, anything like that. Because for anybody that might be asking, your lymphatic system essentially is a chain that goes around. It doesn't have a pump. It is essentially pumped off of movement and gravity. So walking is key, movement is key, really is. It keeps you alive. But what it does is it filters waste, and unfortunately, with lymphomas, it's cancer cells building up in there to where it doesn't allow that waste to expel. And so it grows, and then it goes to like the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's how these tumors grow so quickly. But I'm diagnosed with that. He was like, I'm putting you in, you're going to get in touch with an oncologist, and we're going to get you scheduled for a PET scan here within the next month. Seems like a long time, but that's just unfortunately getting in PET scans and priorities. There's a wait list, so that was part of it. And yeah, so uh, in February, I meet again with my oncologist, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna start. This is kind of the treatment plan. It's gonna be about 3 or 4 treatments. You're just gonna go in on a Monday. It's like 2 bags of a really light dose chemo. You should take Monday and Tuesday and just make sure that you're rested and recovered, but it really won't even have a major effect on your immune system. And you can keep working. This will be fine. We'll attack this. You probably won't even lose your hair. It's kind of how it went." Well, fast forward, I was about to go on a trip, a vacation to Texas, just a family trip before I started my treatments, just to have some time, quality family time, before you always expect to feel like absolute doo doo when you're going into any of that kind of stuff. So I knew, like, with my kiddos, there was going to be some explaining on, like, hey, daddy's, not feeling great or a little under the weather. So just kind of setting that off with a really good trip was really important to Cassie and I. Well, the Friday before we're going, my results for my PET scan came back in, and my doctor, who is an amazing man of God, awesome. I should have said the minute I met him, the first thing he did was like, "Hey, we're not going to allow fear to take the room. Let's pray." We prayed it up, and he has been great. He's now a friend of mine. Like, we share Bible verses and devotions together. He's amazing. Anyways, um, he comes in. He's like, "There's no way to sugarcoat this. This is a lot worse than what we originally expected. After looking at your PET scan," he's like, "I don't have a lot of explanation for why it bypassed your lungs and your armpits and just went straight from neck to abdomen. But you also have about 50 tumors of various sizes in your abdomen." So they counted about 98 tumors. And this has actually jumped over to what they call diffuse large B cell lymphoma, which is it's not rare. It's actually a very common form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. However, it is very rare to have in a 33-year-old. The most common age is 65 to 75. It's highly aggressive, and percentages. The world will give you a whole bunch of statistics on survivability and all that stuff, and they weren't great. Not going to sugarcoat it. There was it's a miracle that I'm here right now. I'll just say that much. But he was like, "This is going to completely change how we attack this. So the Monday that you get back from Texas, you're going to be admitted for 5 days at a time. So instead of just going in the hospital for a couple hours, you're going to be living at the hospital for 5 days at a time. The medicine that they give you is called etoposide. It's a really kind of a harsh form of chemo, but they manage it really, really well by slow dripping it. It's a really slow drip. So each bag is about 24 hours. I think I was getting my bags done at about 23 and a half hours. Um, and so I'd get 4 bags of that a week. So I would go in Monday at 7 and I would leave Friday at like anywhere from 3:30 to 8 o'clock at night, just depending on how the week went. And they do this for a couple different reasons. It kind of messes with your blood pressure a little bit and stuff like that. So in all, that was the hardest part, was just being in the hospital for 5 days at a time, to be completely honest. That anybody that knows me knows I'm not one to sit for very long. And I would say that you're probably the same way. And so that was really, really tough. But uh, yeah, I will say that I went in and I was praying over chemo. I will tell anybody and everybody, I'm not the type of person to dive into medicines too much. I really trust the healing power of God and also just natural stuff. But I will tell you, everything that I was being told statistically was that we got to get ahead of this, because in 3 months, you have 98 tumors, you might have in 3 months over 300, 400, and it might chain to different places. And also, if it gets into your bone marrow, we're really in trouble, you know? And so, yeah, God is so good. I will tell you, I did it at the local hospital that I pretty much worked at and brought patients to for, you know, the last 5, 6 years. And so I knew a lot of the nurses, all of my buddies from Glenn. I mean, just unbelievable support in and out. My pastors from church. My door never shut, to the point where each day I was hoarse. And I'll also say God is so good. I never suffered. I never got super sick. Um, I'll and I give all that to God. I mean, I swear He put a shell around me and my health and kept me so strong and so healthy. Because actually, I'll tell you, my white blood cell count multiple times throughout my treatments was less than 1. And in a normal person walking throughout the day, it's really supposed to be anywhere from like 17 to 21ish is kind of the normal range, and mine was less than 1. So I have a joke that like somebody could have came in my room, farted, and I could have gotten really sick and died. You know, that's kind of, and that's what my doctor said, is a lot of people don't die from cancer. They die from the immune, just the immune collapse that cancer causes. And you know, the treatments definitely don't help. They kind of hurt before they help. But yeah, I learned so much through that process, especially about cancer. I got to meet so many other people going through cancer and pray with them and hear their story and just really learn a lot. But uh, yeah, so come the fourth round, I got another PET scan, and I will tell you, it was a big day, because we knew I felt like it was working. I actually felt like I was getting better before I even started my first round of chemo. I think that's just all God. But I had noticed that the bumps that I could feel were completely gone. My energy level had gone up. Funny story, on the first week, the Wednesday of my first week of treatment, I had been having low back pain for about 7 months, and really just wrote it off like, hey, I'm a firefighter. You know, we're going to be addicted to caffeine and we're going to have bad backs. Like, it's just what we're going to do. And yeah, I got up and my wife had slept on the little bed next to me in the hospital that night. And I got up and I go pee and I'm walking over. And mind you, I'm sleeping on a hospital bed. These things are not like Tempur-Pedic. These are not super comfortable. But I get up and I'm like, I'm stretching, I'm moving around. I'm like, dude. She's like, what? And I'm like, my back feels like it did whenever I was 18. Like my back feels so good. And so I'd explained that to my doctor, and he was like, based off your PET scan, you had multiple tumors pressed up against your lower spine, and just in the 2 bags of treatment you had had at that point. it had probably shrunk down those tumors enough to take that pressure off of your back. And so, without getting too far ahead of myself, that's one thing that you know, you hear stuff like that, and immediately the first people I think about are my brothers and sisters in the firehouse. And I'm like, how many excuses are we making that we're blaming on the job, but we don't know? Like, I was completely asymptomatic. The day I got diagnosed with cancer, I ran the Sydney Lanier Bridge Run 10K. It's like the hardest 10K in the state of Georgia. I had been lifting, running. I lifted and ran all through my treatments, everything. So we always think that like cancer is going to look like something. And I could tell you, and so many people have told me that I was truthfully like the last person they'd ever expect. And I've been challenged, and I feel like by God, but by some of my mentors to tell them, hey, use that. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you. And so put everything aside for just a little bit and focus on your health and making sure that you're good and having that clear that just that mind cleared of knowing like, okay, hey, everything looks really good right now. Like whether it's going and getting a scan or just going and talking to your doctor, going and getting your skin checked. I've had 5 or 6 buddies that have gone to the dermatologist just in my time and have told me about it, and they're like, hey, I went to the dermatologist to go and get like a couple spots checked out, and sure enough, I had little forms of melanoma like all over me, and I've been able to get ahead of that to where that didn't happen. And without me kind of looking at you, they're telling me this, and using that, I don't think I would have gone. And that just means so much to me. But yeah, I kind of circling back, so got the PET scan and everything was clear. And I will tell you, my doctor was, who, like I said, super strong Christian, really chalked it up to like, this is a miracle. Like, this was not supposed to happen because he had already had like multiple surgeries lined up for me after my rounds of chemo, um, to try and beat this thing. And then all of a sudden he's like, four rounds of chemo and you're clear. Like there's not a single blip. And I just had my second PET scan since I've been done with treatment, and everything looks amazing. And I just couldn't thank God enough. And I will tell you, getting to tell people that have been praying over me for that long, especially when quite a few of them knew the statistics that I was being given and stuff like that. That was really amazing, and being able to share that on social media and not say, "Hey, look what I did," but 100% certainty I get to say, like, "Look what God did," because there's no medicine or anything that I was doing at home, whether it be fasting, sauna, staying fit, you name it. There was nothing that was going to do what he did. And I mean that from the absolute depths, bottom of my heart. Like, there's no way that any of that was going to help, except watching his miracle and watching what he did. And I don't feel deserving of that at all, but it has since lit a fire into me and given me a new mission that I feel very confident in talking about, and very excited to tell you about, as we get further into this. So, thank you for letting me share. I will also say, going back to my smoking hot wife, um, my wife and kids were amazing. Now, Cooper, my son, he's 2. And that's a hard thing when you're looking at some of that, because you're like, I don't remember anything when I was 2. Well, I remember, will he have any memories of me? And any dad will tell you that that is a huge, that's a choke up point for me. That gets me, and I remember thinking that numerous times, but I will tell you, God took that fear, and I remember for a while thinking that, and then all of a sudden it was like, dude, he's gonna be my best friend. I'm gonna get to like see his kids. Like there was just a flip that God did in my heart and in my mind where it was just like I didn't look at it like a death sentence, I was just like, watch what God can do. And I was very early on, I was able to just completely trust and give that to him and drop that at his feet. And yeah, but and also my wife, if there was fear in her, she did not show it. She was such a beast. There would be days where I would maybe feel a little bit pathetic, and she would, come on, let's go, get up, you got this. Like, let's pray. We got an amazing book of declarations, which I had never really done. I'll tell you, it's kind of changed the way that I pray. And so, if you don't mind me going on a 2 minute rant, I always would pray. This is how unfortunately a lot of us in Sunday school were told to pray. Lord, if it's your will, let me, allow me to do this. And there is so many Bible verses, like I said, in this big, beautiful book that already tell us God's will for us, right? And so we get to declare his power and his grace and the fact that he is a God that heals and that he is a God that still does miracles. Miracles didn't stop when the book stopped getting written. Sometimes we just live way too fast and way too loud. I will tell you, way too loud, and I'm guilty of that as well. To listen, to hear, and to see what God is doing and the miracles that God is doing. And as we advance, as with science or whatever, we write off some of these things as that's an advancement in science, when that is 100% still God. And that's what the first thing I've been doing is like trying to tell people um, that we get to declare God's power and we get to declare that He wants us to thrive into that. If we trust God's mission, then it takes away the fear of the unknown, of death, of any of that. And the same way that we go into the firehouse and we know that, hey, I could get the call. Am I okay with that? Am I okay with knowing that putting my life on the line? Well, heck yeah, that's what we swore the oath to do. And I would tell you, there's some firefighters out there that they're like, that is how I want to go out, man. I want to go out kicking down doors and saving babies. And as Christians, we get to also have complete comfort that, yes, do I want to stay here because I've got this plan or this focus or this mission for my life? But the more that I dive into the word and the more that we dive into the word, we know that the kingdom is the mission, right? That's the end goal. The things that we do on earth is our goal is to just is bring others to that kingdom and to profess the glory of God and get people to see that kingdom. And yeah, I mean, I get goosebumps talking about it because it's just changed the way that I've seen how God works. And instead of just saying, "Hey, Lord, if it's your will, just heal me," I'm like, no, God is going to use this. He's going to use this because that's the powerful God that He is. And even though I may not see the end of the mission right now, I'm trusting and giving this all to God that His kingdom is going to be glorified through this. And there have been 5 people very close to in my life that have accepted the Lord as their Savior during the time that I've been going through this battle and after. And I'm not saying it's because of what I did. I think it's because they got to see God work and my confidence in God through that. I know that's a little bit of a about a 3 minute rant, but I want to tell people that, and I'm not a pastor, but if we're really trusting, we can change the way that we pray and we can declare in his glory. And that's what he wants us to do, right? That's what he wants is he wants us to have complete confidence in his strength and his power. And, instead of treating him like a little genie in a bottle where, hey, Lord, I really need this. Will you make this wish happen? We get to declare that, hey, I don't have the end goal, but you have all my steps mapped out and you know everything. You know how this is going to work out. All I want is for your kingdom to be glorified. If we can do that, watch what God does. So, um, yeah, that is my. I got a little carried away with the love of Christ because that's what happens, and that's where my heart is really right now for sure is just getting to tell others about that. But My cancer story is exactly that. There are others that have worse stories, but I learned so much and I got to witness God use that. And for the five that I know of that have made their relationship and proclaimed their relationship with God known, and I'm so thankful for that. And I would do it all again. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. If you told me I had it right now for five more, I'd do it for five more. I really would. And I think that all kind of goes back to that firefighter mentality of that's exactly how we look at things when, hey, there's very low survivability rate. Well, that doesn't mean that we're not going to go in there and try and save that person that's in there just because there's a low percentage chance. No, that's our job. That's what we're going to do. And it's our job as Christians, it's our job as men and husbands and fathers to lead our families, our friends, and others to Christ. And if it's pointing to Christ, that's what we're going to do. And that's my rant. Took me a little while to learn it, and but it didn't take me very long to live it. It was a radical change in my life, and I'm forever grateful. So
No,
yeah,
Pat, that is beautiful, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing
thank
that.
you.
As you're telling that story, it reminded me of something that I shared with you when we were on the phone a couple weeks ago. That it brings me back to the time that my father dealt with this cancer. My father passed away from pancreatic cancer back in 2020, and
Hmm.
somebody told us that as he was going through that, if my father passed away, he would get to see God's glory for himself.
That's right.
But if he, by some miracle, was cured, like you have been fighting and you're cured from cancer, other people are going to get to see God's glory through your story, and that's exactly what is happening. You get
Hmm.
to now witness to people the miracle that God has done in your life and continues to do, and what a amazing story it is for you to share with people and
Thank
encourage
you.
people. And as you said, just being able to be there for people. I'm sure that people will probably reach out to you if one day they are, unfortunate enough to have to deal with that. So
I
it's a beautiful
actually
story, man. I
I
appreciate that.
welcome that. I welcome that. I have since this I've had the opportunity to talk to people I don't even know, um, who just have gotten diagnosed, and I tell them, hey, now is not the time to panic. The time is to make a great game plan. The time is to surround yourself with people who are focused on pouring into you and building you up because you're going to have hard days. And right now is the time to be trusting that God works and that God does amazing things. And I've had some amazing phone calls with some people that have been given a lot worse circumstance than I have. And hearing their confidence in the Lord moves me. It makes me question why I'm not that confident. That's how confident they are. And um, my only fear is that as the years go by, do I lose sight of this? And so my goal is to surround myself with people and hear from people that are constantly going through this so that I can see this is this is something that the God has is doing always and forever, and that's what he will be doing. And I can just cherish that miracle for longer and longer is getting to see that. And 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 actually I've got to pray over those folks. And dude, amazing story, man. Two of them now are cancer free, and two of them are trending in the right direction. And I just couldn't be more thankful. And they've been able to just share with me, like, hey, the that prayer that you did with me on that Tuesday morning kind of changed the way I viewed all this, you know. And yeah, that's what I try and tell everybody is this is not a death sentence, man. This is just an opportunity to watch God work. And there are things that we can do to help. I'm not saying that at all. And that's kind of what I want to tie into as we get a little bit more into the Decon project. But there are
Yeah.
things that we can do to help. And there's a lot of stuff that I did to help. And I will gladly give anybody any info. I'm not a doctor. So if anybody wants any information, I'm not even going to call it advice on some things that I tried and worked with, that doesn't mean that that's what helped or cured me. Like I said, I believe I saw a miracle and witnessed a miracle happen in my body. But um, I'm more than willing to pass that on. I have a small little, PDF that I wrote of kind of my entire story and different programs that I did and tried to work on. It's completely free. It's on my social media. And yeah, I would love to tell you, kind of tie in on what now is my focus and where I'm at. And we can get in a little bit more as to just how much I love the fire service and how much you love it and why I'm so,
Yeah,
if
yeah. I think that this is the perfect segment, Pat, for you to just share with us a little bit about what the Project
yeah,
is about, and what you plan to do with the Decon Project
yeah,
from now on, and helping others with it.
100%. Well, it all starts first from just an absolute love, not just for the fire service, um, but the brotherhood. And yes, sisters are included in that, but the brotherhood is doesn't see gender. We just use brother. But that it we if you are suited up and have sworn the oath, then you are a brother. That is what you are. And I love that more than anything fire service related on this planet. I would rather have the brotherhood than have a good job every week. You know what I'm saying? Or every other day. If I never burned one down again, but I had what I have in the brotherhood, I'd forever be happy. I really would. Now, I'm not putting that on me. I'm not putting that out there, Lord. I need some burns, but I'm just kidding. I work in a naval submarine base. We don't have fires. If we had fires, things would be really bad. But that's beside the point. But yeah, so going back to my cancer story, on the third round, I knew at that point I was going to be healed. I knew it deep down in my core. That was before I had any visual proof, but I just felt like God was doing some things, and I felt like He was telling me, like, hey, watch what happens. Like, you've been asked to get used by this, and I'm about to, put some work to it because you're about to get used. And so I started kind of writing down some things that I wish, and I can't speak for every fire service, but I've been with three different fire departments that I wish that maybe the fire service would have offered, and things that we could do better in the fire service. So we all know that when we swear the oath, we're going to be exposed to things that most people will never be exposed to. And we know that. But there are so many things throughout the day, just daily duties, daily activities that we're getting exposed to that we can fix, mitigate, whatever it may be. And I think of one in particular. All three fire departments that I've been a part of have rows of lockers right there in the bay, and it looks really cool, and it's kind of easy. Firefighters are kind of, in a weird way, sometimes the laziest, most active people on the planet. And instead of going into some room, we just boom, there's my gear right there, and I drop it right on the tailboard, and I'm rocking. There's my gear check, right? But in reality, what's happening is that gear is getting blasted with, you know, uh, diesel fumes pretty much constantly. And then we throw on our gear and we're looking all cool, and our pores are open and we're absorbing that because my cancer did get, um, it fell under, I actually received workers' comp for my cancer, which is really, really rare. It doesn't happen very often. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to give others kind of the way that I wrote things up and how I documented all my stuff because, like I said, I'm 33 and I was diagnosed with a form of cancer that's most commonly found in 65 to 75-year olds. But lymphoma is really exactly that. I mean, the fire service really runs into four major cancers: lung, obviously, skin melanoma, lymphomas of all types, because our body can't excrete the toxins that we get in fast enough, and it allows the cancer to build up. And then really testicular and prostate, because why? That's where a lot of our sweat and toxins build up, is right in that groin area. Because our gear is amazing gear, but it's made to not let heat in or out, right? So it traps everything in. So the Decon Project, what we want to do, and we want to do this for all first responders, is we want to provide some tools at fire stations, and we want to offer some scans. So first and foremost, we want to bring in saunas. We want to bring in detox cleaning wipes that you can have right after you go to a fire or a scene. You're able to clean rapid decon yourself. We want to bring in soaps and shampoos that are healthy and actually help detoxify. One of the funniest things is like I've heard it a thousand times. Hey man, let's go clean up after that fire. Make sure we get all that soot off of us and stuff. And no offense to Old Spice, but we're just lathering up in Old Spice and thinking that's doing something. When if you look at the back of that bottle, you're like, that's more toxic than half the stuff I was just standing in for an hour and a half putting that fire out. And so we're wanting to do that, but then we're also wanting to team up and actually bring scans to fire departments. Now, Helton, I don't know if you've ever had it, but I've never worked for a department that has offered scans. And I can speak for a lot of the departments around me. That's not something they have. And so I can't help but look around at guys that think everything's okay, just like I did. Like I felt great. I was asymptomatic. I felt amazing. If it wasn't for that bump, I would still probably be in the same spot I was then. And I look at these guys and girls that I care about so much, and they've been on the job for 20 years, and they don't really have an idea of what's going on underneath, except for a basic lab panel, which statistically, about 92% of cancers don't show up on a basic lab panel really at all until it is way farther down the road and like advanced to the point where like it's you've noticed because you've been sick for months, you know. Um, but yeah, and so we want to offer those guys that peace of mind. We want to get them scans to where they can one, hey, everything looks good. I'm gonna rest my head at night knowing this job hasn't completely taken a toll on me. Or two, hey, we found something. Doesn't mean that it is anything bad, but why don't we go and pursue this? And I'm telling you, it means it means if one person in an entire department found something and was able to get ahead of that, Decon Project mission accomplished. Like one. Now, obviously, we want to do that at a nationwide level. Um, but that testimony of just finding one person and knowing, hey, this guy had no clue that this was going on. You know, I use myself as an example again, like I said with my PET scan. My first ever scan of my entire life showed me I had 98 tumors, and I had no clue. You know, now that was a PET scan. That happens typically when they know you have some form of cancer. That's when you get a PET scan. But my first full body MRI, there you go. That's what I had, and so that's what we want to do. And we're not doing this just out of like, hey, the same department is going to use us what we're trying to do is we're trying to go in and set the standard for, hey, fire service, this is really what you need to be providing and doing for your guys, you know, because I cost Uncle Sam over $1 million with my treatment alone. If I would have had a scan 2 or 3 years ago and we found something maybe at like its infancy or early stage, and that was a $1,000 scan, might not have cost Uncle Sam $1 million, you know. And so it's just time that we set that standard of like, hey, as much as our job is to put the health of others before our own, it is the fire service's job to put the firefighters' health in as a priority. And we're seeing such an amazing growth in the mental aspects and stuff like that, but we're still very much behind in the actual physical health of it all. And there are so many firefighters dying way too young of cancer, and even worse, and I'm sure you've seen this in your fire service, but I've seen it numerous times, is a guy that just gave 25, 30 years to the fire service, and 2 years after he retires he dies of cancer. And that is a statistic that we have to eliminate. Like that cannot happen. um and So yeah, that is our mission. Is really it's we have lofty goals, but we want to start with one and go till everybody understands that this is the standard that we're going to do, and that yes, there's exposures that we can't control or that we sign up for, like going to a hazmat call or to a burner, where you're exposed to those things. But what can the fire service provide to help us clear that out? So the sauna, go and open up those pores, sweat all that out. Then you get in the shower, rinse off, get all, detoxify, get some activated charcoal going, you name it, pull all those toxins out. And then boom, hey, once a year or once every 2 years, your department provide a scan to give you a chance to say, hey, we don't know what this is, but let's go pursue it. Or, hey, everything looks really good. Like, let's keep it up. Like, the job has not beaten me down quite yet. And so that is our mission, man, is to set that standard. Um, I'll tell you, our mission statement is the Decon Project, rooted in faith, exists to honor and protect those who protect us by advancing cancer prevention practices, education, and resources so that every hero can return home safe and healthy. And one thing that I pray over every time that I come home or come to shift, as I'm put my truck in park, I say, Lord, allow me and my crew to get home safe, right? And so awesome, we did that, but what small things are we getting exposed to day in and day out there that may hinder that down the road? And I want to get ahead of that and combat that as best we can. I will tell you, I'm the dumbest dude on my board. I just happen to be the smart one that came up with the idea. My board is awesome. These guys care. They are ready to rock. We are going to try everything in it that we can to make our living conditions and eliminate workplace cancer in not only the fire service but in first responders altogether. So thank you.
Pat, that's awesome, and I love the project. I love the goal and the mission statement for it. I'm in a department that we are very lucky to have partner with our local union. They are covering parts of the costs for ultrasound scans for us. I have
Awesome.
gotten that done a couple of years ago. Also lucky that a one of the local hospitals here, they're also doing a cancer study with firefighters. So there's been multiple members of our department that have gone through that. I have gone through it. I got a full body MRI a few months
Awesome.
ago. Luckily for me, nothing was
Yeah.
found. I'm good. I'm healthy. So those two scans that I've had over the last few years, have been good. Also, unfortunately, but also good that some members in our department have found some cancers
Yeah.
from some very benign to some very malignant. So it's awesome that I'm around a department
That
in an
is
area
amazing,
where we
man.
have those chances. So I'm really excited to see what the Decon Project is going to
Thank
be
you.
doing, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited to keep on partnering with you. So
Yeah.
I know how to get a hold of you, but how would
Yeah.
anybody else get a hold of you? How can they find your stuff on social media and find out
Yeah.
more about the Decon Project?
Dude, that's yeah. So I'll tell you both. My personal is Pat Long, 24, and that's my personal. I post a lot of stuff on there. I have every Friday I do a Fatherhood Friday post where I do a little devotional, kind of focused on fatherhood, um, and how we can be better fathers. And like I said, not a pastor. I just typically read a pretty dope little devotional or see something in the news that I feel like evil is kind of being thrown at us, and it's like, how do we combat that, right? Um, but then also our Instagram and Facebook is the Decon Project, uh, DECON, like decontaminate. Um, and right now we are still very much in the infancy. We're getting a website built. We are in the process of getting our 501c3 completely set up and going. Once we are able to do that, is all hands on deck, and we're going to start being able to um, really, help. Um, the donation opportunities are already kind of stacking up, which is amazing. And that's a major God thing, is just being able to tell people what we're planning, and people are already like, hey, as soon as y'all are ready to go, let's fire it up. So that means so much to me. And we're going to try and get some grants going as well and help with that, because grants are a major part of that. Uh, and I'll tell you, like, the business side of it is wild. It's really a crazy thing to learn and to manage. But like I said, I've got an incredible board. They are pushing, they're working, they're pushing me to be better and to stay laser focused. And yeah, that's what we plan on doing. Is in reality, by the beginning of 2026, we expect to be helping in getting into quarter 1, helping our first fire department, police department, you name it. And so please, guys, follow along on Instagram. I also have a YouTube page, the Decon Project. Really simple. I can't believe that was available, but I guess that was the Lord working as well, that I didn't have to go buy it from some company that holds it for $1 million or whatever. But that was really cool. And yeah, I do devotionals every Monday and Wednesday. Uh, Pretty catered towards firefighters. Actually, a fire chief friend of mine, he's one of my best friends, Jimmy Pickett, has a Flames of Faith devotional that he makes and posts it almost every day, and it is incredible. It's a great little way to kickstart and kind of get you juiced up for your shift. And man, the words hit. It paints into a picture of like only a firefighter could say that and understand like what it really means. And he's done a great job with that. Really talented. And so we're teaming up with him, and we're trying to team up with some sauna companies and some really good soap companies and all that to get this package going to where as soon as we show up, we're gonna completely change the layout and look of how health and cancer prevention is done at your department wherever we show up. So that's our goal.
That's awesome, Pat. Well,
Thanks, man.
once again, thank you, my friend, for coming on and spending
Thank
some time
you.
with us. So, everybody, reach out to Pat and the Decon Project. And Pat, I'm gonna have to have you back again. This
Please,
1 hour
dude.
wasn't
Yeah.
enough. There's a lot of stuff that I want to get into. So, everybody, if you like this stuff, as I said, reach out to Pat and share the episode so we can get the word about the Decon Project out there. And we'll see you guys next time.
It's amazing. Thanks, guys.